Tony and Debra Pickman were a young, newlywed couple brimming with excitement when they bought their first home in December 1992. The house, located in Atchison, Kansas, seemed like the perfect place to start their new life together. Little did they know, this house would later become known as the infamous Haunted Sallie House. From the outside, the house looked charming and inviting, with its Victorian-style architecture and well-maintained garden. It was the kind of house many would dream of owning. Tony and Debra were thrilled with their purchase and eagerly began settling in, making plans for their future. They even prepared a room for the baby they hoped to have soon, decorating it with bright colors and toys. However, almost immediately after moving in, they began to notice odd things. Their dog, normally calm and well-behaved, would act strangely in the baby's room. It would bark furiously, sometimes refusing to enter the room altogether. Tony and Debra brushed it off, assuming their pet was just adjusting to the new environment. But as weeks turned into months, the unusual occurrences became impossible to ignore. Lights would flicker and turn on by themselves. Objects would move or fall off shelves without any apparent cause. Glasses would shatter spontaneously. At night, they would hear strange noises, footsteps echoing through the empty hallways, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and doors creaking open and shut. One particularly chilling incident occurred late at night. Tony was lying in bed, almost asleep, when he heard the sound of a child giggling. Startled, he sat up and listened intently. The giggling continued, echoing through the house. He nudged Debra awake, but by the time she was alert, the sound had stopped. Debra dismissed it as Tony's imagination, but he couldn't shake the eerie feeling it left behind. As the disturbances continued, the atmosphere in the house grew increasingly tense. Tony and Debra began to feel cold spots in certain areas of the house, where the temperature would drop dramatically without any logical explanation. They would also occasionally catch glimpses of shadowy figures moving out of the corner of their eyes, only to find nothing there when they turned to look. One evening, Tony was in the baby's room, tidying up the toys. Their baby was still too young to play with them, but the room was often left in disarray. He carefully placed all the toys back in their rightful places and stepped out, closing the door behind him. As he was halfway down the stairs, he heard the unmistakable sound of toys being scattered across the floor. He rushed back to the room, his heart pounding. To his horror, he found the toys exactly where he had just picked them up from, now strewn all over the room again. The next day, Tony and Debra decided they couldn't ignore the strange happenings any longer. They called Tony's brother and Debra's sister to help them take care of the baby, fearing for the child's safety. They also began researching the history of their house, hoping to find some explanation for the paranormal activities. They discovered that their house had a dark past. A little girl named Sally had once lived there many years ago. According to local lore, Sally had died tragically in the house under mysterious circumstances. Many believed her spirit still lingered, unable to move on due to her untimely and traumatic death. One night, their neighbor approached them with a concerning observation. He mentioned that the light in the baby's room would turn on every night at exactly 2 a.m. Tony and Debra were baffled. They never turned on that light, especially at such odd hours. They had even locked the room to prevent any further disturbances. Desperation led them to call a paranormal investigator, Barbara Connor, who was well known for her expertise in dealing with haunted locations. Barbara visited the house and conducted a thorough investigation. She confirmed their worst fears. The house was indeed haunted by the spirit of a little girl named Sally. Despite the terrifying revelation, Tony and Debra were determined to stay in their home. They had invested their savings into buying it and were not ready to give up so easily. They decided to try and coexist with Sally's spirit, hoping that acknowledging her presence might bring some peace. However, Sally's presence became increasingly malevolent. One night, Tony woke up to a searing pain in his back. Debra lifted his shirt to find deep claw marks etched into his skin, as if he had been attacked by some unseen force. Terrified, they decided to leave the house immediately. but the paranormal activity followed them even after they left, as if Sally's spirit was determined not to let them go. One evening, Tony was in the kitchen getting a glass of water when he felt a sudden chill. Turning around, he saw Sally's ghost standing behind him. Her appearance was ghastly. Her face was half decayed, with worms crawling out of her eye sockets. She reached out to touch him, and wherever her hand made contact, his skin turned numb. He felt an overwhelming force pulling him towards her. In a panic, he managed to break free and ran out of the house, vowing never to return. Despite the horrifying experiences, Tony and Debra felt compelled to understand what had happened to Sally and why her spirit was trapped in the house. They delved deeper into the history of the house and learned that Sally had died during a botched surgery performed by a local doctor. Her death had been slow and painful, and her spirit was believed to be seeking revenge for her untimely demise. Determined to help Sally find peace, they decided to confront her spirit one last time. They invited Barbara Connor back to the house for a final seance, hoping to communicate with Sally and offer her the closure she needed to move on. The seance was a terrifying experience. As soon as it began, the temperature in the room plummeted. Objects started flying across the room, and a chilling wind howled through the house. Barbara called out to Sally, asking her to reveal herself. Suddenly, the room fell silent, and Sally's ghost appeared. Her expression was one of deep sorrow and anger. Barbara spoke gently to Sally, acknowledging her pain and promising to help her find peace. Sally's ghost began to weep, her form flickering in and out of sight. As Barbara continued to speak, the malevolent energy in the room slowly dissipated. Sally's ghost gradually faded away, leaving behind a sense of calm. After the seance, the paranormal activity in the house ceased. Tony and Debra felt a profound sense of relief and sadness. They had come to understand the tragedy that had bound Sally's spirit to the house and had played a part in helping her move on. The Sallie house remains abandoned to this day, a testament to the horrors that once unfolded within its walls. Paranormal investigators still visit, and many report feeling a presence in the house, but no one has dared to live there since the Pickmans. The story of Sallie House is a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that can haunt our world and the impact they can have on our lives.